The door slammed shut behind Tony as he stormed into the kitchen, his heart pounding like a war drum. "Dad, I'm gay," he blurted out, the words hanging in the air like a grenade about to explode. Mark Thompson froze mid-sip of his coffee, his face draining of color, eyes widening in a mix of shock and denial that Tony had dreaded for years. Mark set the mug down with a clatter, his knuckles white against the countertop. "What did you just say?" His voice was low, edged with the kind of disbelief that bordered on anger. Tony stood his ground, though his legs felt like jelly. He'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in his mirror, but nothing prepared him for the raw hurt flashing across his father's face. The man who'd raised him single-handedly after Mom's death. The stoic mechanic who fixed everything but apparently couldn't fix this. "You're confused, son. It's that college crowd. All those liberal ideas messing with your head." Mark paced the linoleum floor of their modest Seattle home, the one with the leaky roof and the backyard where Tony had learned to throw a baseball. "We'll sort this out. I know someone who can help." Tony's stomach twisted. He knew exactly who his dad meant. Uncle Mike, not a real uncle but Dad's best friend from high school. The guy who'd turned his life around after some rough years, the poster boy for change in their conservative circle. Mike Hartley, the ex-gay success story everyone whispered about at church barbecues. By evening, Mark had made the call. "Pack a bag, Tony. You're spending the summer with Mike in Portland. He'll set you straight." "Literally," Tony protested, his voice cracking with frustration. But Mark's mind was ironclad. "This isn't up for debate. I love you too much to let you ruin your life." The drive down I-5 the next morning was silent torture. Rain streaking the windows like tears Tony refused to shed. Portland loomed ahead, a city of bridges and hipsters, but to Tony, it felt like exile. Mike greeted them at his cozy bungalow in the Alberta Arts District, his smile warm but his eyes guarded. At 45, he was fit from years of construction work. His salt and pepper hair cropped short, a far cry from the wild youth Mark often reminisced about. "Mark, old buddy. And this must be Tony. Wow, you've grown." They shook hands, Tony feeling the firm grip that spoke of reliability. Mark clapped Mike on the back. "Take care of him, Mike. You know what we talked about." Mike nodded solemnly, and Mark drove off, leaving Tony with a stranger who was supposed to fix him. The first few days were awkward reconnaissance. Mike showed Tony around the house. A spare room with a twin bed, bookshelves lined with self-help tomes and Bibles, a kitchen that smelled of fresh coffee. "Your dad thinks I can help you because I went through something similar," Mike said over breakfast, his tone measured. "Back in the 90s, I was lost, partied too hard, made choices I regretted. Therapy helped me find my way." Tony poked at his eggs, skepticism bubbling up. "You mean conversion therapy? That stuff's bogus. It's been debunked." Mike's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "Let's just take it one day at a time." As weeks passed, the routine settled in. Mornings were for chores. Mike ran a small remodeling business, and Tony helped on sites, hauling lumber and learning to swing a hammer. Afternoons, they talked. Or rather, Mike probed gently while Tony deflected. "What makes you think you're gay?" Mike asked one evening on the porch, the summer sun dipping low. Tony hesitated, then opened up about crushes in high school, the isolation of hiding. Mike listened without judgment, his expression unreadable. But something shifted in those conversations. A flicker of empathy that felt too real for a cured man. One night, after a grueling day rebuilding a deck, they shared beers. Non-alcoholic for Tony, who was only 19. "Tell me about your past," Tony ventured. Mike stared at the label on his bottle. "It was tough. Grew up in a small town like your dad. When I came out to my folks, they disowned me. Ended up on the streets, then in a program that promised change." His voice cracked slightly. "I married a woman, had a kid. It fell apart." Tony leaned forward. "So you're not fixed?" Mike met his eyes, a storm brewing behind the calm. "Life's not that simple, kid." The tension built subtly. Tony noticed how Mike's gaze lingered sometimes, how he'd quickly look away. Social conflicts crept in. Mike's church friends dropped by, spouting rhetoric about traditional values that made Tony's blood boil. "You can't pray this away," Tony argued one Sunday after service, his voice rising in the car. Mike gripped the wheel. "I know that better than anyone." That admission hung between them, a thread pulling them closer. By midsummer, Tony's resentment toward his dad festered. Phone calls home were terse, Mark insisting on progress reports that Mike vaguely provided. But privately, Mike confessed more. "The therapy didn't change me, it broke me. I pretended for years to keep my family." Tony's heart ached for him. "Why not tell Dad the truth?" Mike sighed. "He's my best friend. He'd see it as betrayal." In that vulnerability, Tony felt a spark. Not just sympathy, but attraction. Mike was kind, broken in ways that mirrored his own fears. One rainy afternoon, as they sorted tools in the garage, Tony confronted him. "You're still gay, aren't you?" Mike froze, tools clattering to the floor. "Tony, don't." But the air crackled with unspoken truth. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just them. No kisses, no touches. Just a profound connection that terrified them both. The revelation lingered like smoke after a fire, impossible to ignore. Tony couldn't sleep that night, replaying Mike's haunted expression. The next morning, over coffee, Mike tried to downplay it. "What you said yesterday, it's complicated. I've built a life here." Tony pushed back, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "But it's a lie, isn't it? Pretending to be ex-gay for people like my dad." Mike rubbed his temples, looking older than his years. "Your dad saved me back then, pulled me out of the gutter. I owe him." As days blurred into weeks, their conversations deepened into raw confessions. Mike shared stories of his youth, wild nights in San Francisco, the thrill of first love with a man named Tom, shattered by societal pressure. "I thought marriage would fix it," he admitted one evening while they walked along the Willamette River, the city lights reflecting on the water. "But you can't force yourself to be someone you're not." Tony nodded, sharing his own fears. The bullying in school, the dread of disappointing his dad. "He thinks this is a choice. Like I woke up one day and decided to make life harder." Social ripples began to spread. At a neighborhood barbecue, Mike's ex-wife, Sarah, showed up with their teenage daughter, Lily. Sarah was cordial but distant, her eyes flicking between Mike and Tony with unspoken questions. Lily, perceptive at 16, pulled Tony aside. "Dad's different around you. Happier." Tony blushed, unsure how to respond. Later, Sarah cornered Mike. "Is this what I think it is? You're supposed to be helping the kid, not." Mike cut her off, his face flushing. "It's not like that." But the doubt seeded conflict. Mark called more frequently, sensing something off in Mike's updates. Is he making progress? Any girlfriends on the horizon? Mike hedged. "He's opening up, Mark. Give it time." But Tony overheard, fury igniting. "Why lie for him? Tell him the truth." Mike shook his head. "It would destroy our friendship. He's like a brother." The argument escalated, voices echoing in the small house. "So you'd rather live a facade? That's not living," Tony shouted, storming out into the Portland drizzle. He wandered the streets, ending up at a local LGBTQ center he discovered online. There, he met others his age. Stories of rejection, resilience. A counselor listened as Tony poured out his confusion about Mike. "Sounds like he's struggling too. But you can't save someone who won't save themselves." Empowered, Tony returned home determined. "We need to talk," he said to Mike, who was nursing a drink on the couch. That night, barriers crumbled. Mike admitted the full truth. The ex-gay label was a survival mechanism after his marriage failed. "I went back into the closet to keep my job, my friends. But meeting you, it stirred everything up." Tony felt a rush of emotions. Pity, anger, desire. What if we could be honest? Together. Mike's eyes softened, but fear won. "You're young, Tony. This could ruin you." The plot thickened when Mark surprised them with a visit. Pulling up unannounced, he found Tony and Mike laughing over a shared meal, the ease between them palpable. "What's going on here?" Mark demanded, his mechanic's hands balling into fists. Mike stammered, "Just bonding, old friend." But Mark's suspicion grew. Over dinner, he grilled Tony. "Have you prayed about this?" Mike's methods worked for him. Tony snapped, "Maybe they didn't." The table fell silent, tension thick as fog. After Mark left, promising to return soon, Mike and Tony faced the brewing storm. "He'll find out," Tony said. Mike nodded grimly. "And when he does, everything breaks." Their bond deepened amid the uncertainty. Late-night talks turning intimate in emotion if not action. Tony dreamed of a future where they could be open, but reality loomed. Societal judgment, family ties fraying. A turning point came at a Pride event Tony convinced Mike to attend anonymously. Amid rainbow flags and cheering crowds, Mike's walls cracked. "I haven't felt this free since. Ever." They held hands briefly in the throng, a stolen moment of authenticity. But a photo snapped by an acquaintance circulated, reaching Sarah. She confronted Mike. "If you're lying to everyone, what about Lily? She deserves the truth." The drama intensified as Lily overheard, her world appending. "Dad, are you gay? Was our family a lie?" Tears flowed, accusations flying. Mike broke down, hugging her. "I loved your mom, but not the way she deserved. I'm sorry." Tony watched from the sidelines, guilt gnawing. Had he pushed too far? Lily's revelation rippled outward, forcing confrontations. She stormed out after the argument, seeking solace with friends, leaving Mike devastated. "I've hurt everyone I care about," he confessed to Tony, slumped on the living room floor. Tony knelt beside him, offering comfort. "Hiding hurts more. We can fix this." But Mike pulled away, doubt clouding his features. At what cost? Word spread through their social circle. Church friends whispered, judgmental texts pinging Mike's phone. "Thought you were redeemed." One read. Mark, sensing the shift from afar, demanded answers. "What's this about you at a pride parade? Are you backsliding?" Mike evaded, but the pressure mounted. Tony, meanwhile, faced his own battles. College friends back home messaged support, but online trolls from his dad's conservative network hurled slurs after a leaked post. The core conflict erupted when Mark arrived for another visit, this time armed with pamphlets from a conversion camp. "If Mike can't help, maybe this place can." Tony recoiled. "Dad, that's abuse. Science says it's harmful." Mark's face reddened. "Science? This is about your soul, son." Mike intervened, his voice trembling. Mark listened to him. "These programs, they don't work." Mark whirled on him. "You of all people should know they do. You changed." The room exploded into chaos. "I didn't change," Mike yelled, years of suppression boiling over. "I faked it to survive. I'm gay, Mark. Always have been." Silence crashed down like a wave. Mark staggered back, betrayal etching deep lines on his face. "You lied to me? All these years?" Mike nodded, tears streaming. "I was scared. You pulled me up when no one else would. I couldn't lose you." Tony watched in horror as his dad processed the bombshell. "So this summer, you weren't fixing him. You were, what? Indoctrinating him?" Accusations flew. Mark calling Mike a predator, Mike defending their innocent bond. Tony stepped in. "Dad, stop. Mike's been more honest with me than anyone. We're not. It's not like that." But the damage was done. Mark grabbed his keys. "We're leaving, Tony. Now." Tony refused, planting his feet. "I'm staying. I won't hide anymore." Mark's eyes filled with pain. "You're choosing him over your own father?" The words cut deep, echoing the societal divides. Family loyalty versus personal truth. Mark left alone, the door slamming like a final judgment. In the aftermath, Mike and Tony navigated the fallout. Sarah mediated with Lily, who slowly came around, her anger softening to understanding. "I just wish you'd told me sooner, Dad." Family therapy sessions began, raw and emotional, unpacking decades of secrets. Tony supported Mike, their connection evolving into quiet affection. Shared glances, supportive touches that spoke volumes without crossing lines. But external pressures persisted. Mark cut off contact, his silence a gaping wound. Rumors swirled in their small-town origins, friends taking sides. Tony faced backlash at college orientation, whispers following him. Isn't that the kid whose dad sent him away? He channeled the pain into activism, joining campus LGBTQ groups, advocating against conversion therapy. Mike, inspired, began questioning his own facade. Maybe it's time to live openly, he mused one night, as they sat on the porch watching stars. Tony smiled. Together. Mike hesitated, then nodded. But fear lingered: job security, social ostracism. A job site confrontation highlighted it. A coworker sneered, "Heard you're back to your old ways, Hartley?" Mike stood tall. "My old ways are who I am." The high drama peaked at a family gathering Sarah organized, inviting Mark in a bid for reconciliation. Tensions simmered as they gathered in her backyard. Mark arrived stony-faced, avoiding Mike's gaze. Over grilled burgers, old wounds reopened. "You betrayed our friendship," Mark accused. Mike countered. "Hiding was the betrayal, to myself, to you." Tony pleaded. "Dad, love isn't conditional. Can't you see that?" Emotions ran high, voices overlapping in heated debate. Lily chimed in. "Grandpa, Dad's happy now. Isn't that what matters?" Mark wavered, memories flashing of their shared history. But pride held firm. "I need time," he muttered, leaving early. The evening ended in tears, but seeds of change were planted. Time stretched like taffy in the weeks following the gathering. Mark's silence persisted, a void that Tony filled with letters. Handwritten pleas detailing his journey, the man Mike truly was. "Dad, he's not the villain. He's human, like us." No replies came, but Tony persisted, his resolve hardening amid campus life. Portland became home, Mike's bungalow a sanctuary where they built routines. Morning runs, evening debates on politics and identity. Mike's transformation accelerated. He came out at work, facing mixed reactions, some colleagues supportive, others distant. A contract fell through due to client concerns, highlighting the economic toll of authenticity. Is it worth it? Mike wondered aloud one evening, staring at bills piling up. Tony squeezed his shoulder. Freedom always is. Their bond deepened, unspoken romance simmering beneath friendship, fueled by mutual respect and shared struggles. Social controversies amplified. A local news story on conversion therapy featured anonymous quotes from Mike's past circle, painting him as a fallen example. Online forums debated, can people really change? Tony jumped into the fray, posting essays on social media that went viral in queer communities. Support poured in, but so did hate, threats that made Mike install security cameras. Lily's role grew pivotal. She bridged gaps, visiting often and sharing stories of her own friends' coming outs. It's not the 90s anymore, Dad. People get it. Her acceptance bolstered Mike, who began volunteering at the LGBTQ center Tony frequented. There, they met others in similar binds, parents grappling, youths rebelling. One workshop on family reconciliation hit home, prompting Mike to reach out to Mark directly. The call was tense. "We need to talk, brother," Mike said. Mark's response was curt. Nothing to say, but persistence paid off. Mark agreed to meet halfway, in a neutral coffee shop in Olympia. Tony insisted on coming, turning it into a trio confrontation. The drive was nerve-wracking, rain pattering like anxious heartbeats. At the shop, steam rising from mugs, old friends faced off. Mark looked haggard, shadows under his eyes. "You lied for decades," he started. Mike owned it. "I did, out of fear. But Tony showed me there's another way." Mark turned to his son. "And you? Falling for my best friend." Tony clarified calmly. "It's not about falling, it's about truth. Mike's helped me accept myself." Emotions surged. Mark admitted his own fears, rooted in a rigid upbringing. "I thought I was protecting you." Tears fell as barriers softened. "Maybe I was wrong. Reconciliation wasn't instant." Mark left with promises to think, but a crack had formed. Back home, Mike and Tony celebrated small victories. A hug from Lily, a supportive text from Sarah. But larger conflicts loomed. A bill in Congress on banning conversion therapy sparked debates in their circle. Mark, influenced, began questioning his beliefs, reading articles Tony sent. Personal growth intertwined with romance. One quiet evening, as autumn leaves fell, Mike confessed fully. "Tony, you've awakened something in me, I think. I love you." Tony's heart soared. "I love you too." No dramatics, just honest words in the glow of lamplight. They navigated the age gap ethically, focusing on emotional intimacy, building a foundation amid societal scrutiny. The climax built when Mark returned unannounced, this time with an olive branch, a family photo album from their youth. "Remember when we dreamed of the future?" he asked Mike. Nostalgia bridged gaps. "I do, but the future's different now." Mark nodded, turning to Tony. "I'm trying, son. It's hard, but I'm trying." Hugs were exchanged, tentative but real. Yet not all resolved smoothly. Old friends distanced themselves, labeling the trio lost causes. Tony faced a campus protest against queer rights, standing firm with newfound allies. Mike's business rebounded with progressive clients, proving authenticity's value. As winter approached, bonds strengthened. Thanksgiving at Sarah's became a blended family affair. Mark included, awkward at first but warming over turkey and pie. Laughter mingled with serious talks. Mark sharing his journey of unlearning prejudices. Mike opening up about therapy's scars. "It nearly killed me," he admitted. Mark listened, empathy dawning. "I pushed you into that. I'm sorry." Tony thrived, his college major in social work inspired by the ordeal. He and Mike explored their relationship slowly. Dates in public parks, hands intertwined defiantly. Society's gaze varied. Approving nods from strangers, glares from others. But they endured, advocates for change. The truth's full impact hit when a documentary crew contacted Mike, wanting his story as an XX gay. He agreed, with Tony's encouragement, turning pain into purpose. The film sparked national debate, headlines blaring, "From conversion to coming out." Mark watched the premiere, pride swelling for his son and friend. In quiet moments, doubts lingered. "What if we'd never met?" Tony asked Mike one snowy night, curled by the fire. Mike smiled. "Then I'd still be hiding." Their love, born of chaos, became a beacon, proof that truth, though destructive, rebuilds stronger. Years condensed into growth. Mark fully accepted, attending Pride with them. Lily flourished, an ally in her own right. But the path wasn't linear, setbacks like lost friendships reminded of costs. In the end, as Tony looked back, he pondered the choices that shattered and mended. Was forcing change ever justified? Or does true love demand acceptance above all?